Gentrification. It's probably happening in your Brooklyn neighborhood, even on your block. Some residents say that the distinctive identity of neighborhoods is changing. Others say the poor are being pushed out. Fact is, gentrification is a reality in Brooklyn that we must face. Joining me to discuss this is one of Brooklyn's newest State Assembly members, Charles Barron. Assemblyman Barron, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very, very much. Very important topic.
Yes. What are your concerns about gentrification? And I know there are many. So.
Right, yeah, but my main concern about gentrification is that living in a capitalist economy, in a capitalist system where land is the basis of anybody's freedom, land is the basis of anybody's ability to accumulate wealth, land is the basis of anybody to accumulate income and power. So what happened prior to gentrification, because this should be called re-gentrification. You know, gentry means the elites, the upper class. Okay. They're telling you what they're going to do.
Yes.
Gentry, the upper class, they want to bring them back. See, they once had the inner cities. My beloved East New York was all white in the early 1960s, 50s. It was all white. Many of us were on the outskirts. Some of us were actually downtown, mid-Manhattan, and then they moved us up to Harlem and the other parts of the city. So gentry, they should call it re-gentrification. They want to come back. Remember that time when they gave us the inner cities? They said, y'all could have Brooklyn, you could have Harlem. We going to Long Island. We going to the suburbs. And then when the economic crises came, and they began to have difficulties getting to their business and paying all of that oil, gas, and all of the stuff to get to their business, now they want to come back. So it's really re-gentrification. And the way they do it is through housing policies. 421A, and I'll explain that program, they do it through the AMI, the area median income of a neighborhood. So they'll take a place like East New York. Developer, I was in the city council for 12 years. Mm-hmm. Developer comes into my office and he says, Councilman, we're bringing affordable housing to your neighborhood. Takes out these colorful pictures, wonderful, colorful pictures of how the housing's going to look when they finish. I said, put them away. What would the income requirement be for my people in East New York to get into these affordable housing? Mm-hmm. Affordable to who? Mm-hmm. He said, it's going to be 80% of the AMI. You must know what that means. So if you're an elected official and you don't know that the area median income of the New York metropolitan area is $84,000 to $86,000 for a family of four. And if he tells you affordability is defined by the federal government and HPD, Housing Preservation Development City Agency, mm-hmm. as 80% of the AMI, then you got to sit there and know that means it's $64,000 for a family of four. So I told him, well, I know what 80% means. That's $64,000. I told him just what I told you. Mm. I asked him the question, do you know my neighborhood AMI, East New York? He said no. I said, you're going to sit here and tell me you bring an affordability to my beloved East New York, and you don't even know the area median income of my neighborhood? My friend, this meeting is terminated. I made him go away, find that out. It's $33,000 for a family of four. So $64,000 is gentrification. $80,000 is gentrification because we won't be able to afford it. Whites will move in like they did in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Harlem, Crown Heights, but they have not yet captured my beloved East New York.
Isn't that going to happen?
No. Not if we can help it. And people are thinking that gentrification is coming to East New York because the so-called progressive mayor, I called him a pseudo-progressive, he wants on the north side, Atlantic Avenue and where the past Atlantic Avenue, all of that area is Esplanade District, is another northern part of East New York. But everything from Pitkin Avenue down to Linden Boulevard, where the southern part is controlled by us, it is not gentrified. East New York is the only, not according to Charles Barron, according to an article in the Daily News, and they hate me, so you know this got to be true. The Daily News said that the only black neighborhood that experienced a 13.2% increase in the black population has been East New York.
Is that because the areas that are being gentrified, those blacks are moving to East New York?
Correct. And they're going south. New York has lost 100 to 200,000 blacks in their population. Brooklyn lost 50,000 blacks from its population because they can't afford to live here anymore. So they come into places where that's affordable, and to complement to us, they come into East New York. And go ahead.
What resources are you going to have there to accommodate them?
We have plenty of resources. You know, we're fighting for them now. We have a mall out in East New York. No place else has a mall, the Gateway Mall. We got 2,000 jobs for our people in the Gateway Mall. And I'm not talking just entry-level jobs. I'm talking about from entry to management. We also have a youth center that we're building in East New York. We have one that was already built in Canarsie. We have the youth center coming up in East New York, and we have more affordable housing coming every day. We sitting down talking with developers. Where could you go and get a 2-bedroom apartment for $900 to $1,100? Where can you go to get a studio for $650 to $700? I know people who are renting rooms for $800 in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Where could you get a 3-bedroom apartment for $1,200 a month rent? Nowhere. And where could you go in these areas making $25,000 to $50,000? That's the range I keep them in, because, you know, every neighborhood has an income band. And the income band of East New York is 25 to 40 some odd, 50,000. That's about 60, 70% of our people make that. Another 30% are 25,000 and below. And then we have another 10, 15, 20% that makes 60 to 80,000. So you got to keep them in that income band. We define affordable, not you.
There are some people who are saying that gentrification brings a kind of upliftment to neighborhoods.
Nonsense. That's bogus. That's some rap to justify moving us out. East New York is a prime example. They said you need, listen for the terms, diversified income. We need a diversified income base so we can bring up the economy. Sam, I want to bring you around East New York. I'll go on a tour of East New York.
And I'll bring my cameras.
Yes, bring your cameras, and I'll show you apartment buildings where the income is $25,000 to $50,000. And I'll show you a mall that's making a lot of money. I'll show you other stores that's making a lot of money. And I'll show you why developers have come in. You know, this greedy capitalist developers, they're not coming in no neighborhood and having income, the ones I'm telling you, and they're not making any money. That's not even real. They are making money. And quite frankly, I don't care if they make money or not. I told my people, we got you jobs in the mall, but let somebody else make them rich. You don't go give it back to them. You know, save your money.
Does the diversity of the look of the people who are in East New York and other areas where there is gentrification, they point to that diversity, and they don't talk about diversity as far as income is concerned.
You mean cultural diversity?
Yes.
Let's talk straight. You mean mixing white
facial,
people with
yes,
black people?
Yes.
I don't care. Sam, I'm talking to you straight. I'm a black nationalist. I am fine living with black people. We can learn about the world living with black people. That's a bunch of nonsense, because when you talk about diversity, we lose land, we lose businesses, we lose property, we lose everything. Matter of fact, you have some white people moving into Bedford-Stuyvesant complaining about the churches. too much noise for the churches, walking around at midnight with their little poodles, and now we have to get bike lanes all over the place. You know, Sam, I know, but I'm just telling you straight, Sam.
I found it very interesting. Only on Sunday, I was walking through Bed-Stuy. In fact, I was walking on Lewis. I was walking on Lewis, and I was saying to a friend, the churches are gone.
Come on now.
And in place of the churches, there used to be 2 churches on every block. Some blocks, 3 churches. There are now 2 and 3 restaurants.
They have restaurants. You know what they call economic development? Bagel shops. We don't want no bagel shops. You know, black people ain't into no bagel shops. You know, we have been coming into East New York, a restaurant called Fusion East.
Be careful now.
All right, but there's just mixing. The point I'm making, forget the name and all of that. I'm not trying to push them, but they're mixing African American soul food with Caribbean food and bringing that together. That's black owned. We don't need no bagel shops. We don't need. It's like we have to have white folk living with us in order for us to have a prosperous economy, in order for us to have diversity of culture. Tell that to Howard Beach. Tell that to Bensonhurst. Are they trying to diversify their neighborhoods? No. And it's not me, a black nationalist, a believer that black people can live together. When Martin Luther King and all of them were fighting for integration, it wasn't that they wanted to live next to white people. They just know if they went to the white schools, they had better resources. If they had those same resources in the black schools, we would have been fine in the black neighborhoods. So integration and diversity, those are trigger words for white people wanting to come back and control our neighborhoods after we built them up and after we have them and held them down during hard times. Now they want to come back and talk about gentry. Let's not forget that. The elites, the upper class wants the neighborhoods back.
Let's go back to what you mentioned just now, education. We know how schools in black neighborhoods are performing very, very poorly compared to schools in white neighborhoods. There's a school of thought that this gentrification will improve the performance of...
Why? Because they're white, Sam?
No, because there's going to be this diversity.
Well, right, because they're white. White automatically improves something. Let me tell you why schools are failing in our neighborhoods. It has nothing to do with not having white people in the neighborhood. It has all to do with the fact when you go to white schools, they have computer labs, science labs. When you go to white schools, they have recreation after-school programs, and we call it wraparound services. You know what wraparound services means? That means that schools and neighborhoods where the unemployment is low, where the poverty is low, schools and neighborhoods where children aren't going to bed to gunshots, where the crime is low, schools and neighborhoods where the libraries are flourishing, schools and neighborhoods where there's peace and calm, those children learn. Do it to our neighborhoods. We don't need white folk coming in. Do that for black people, Sam.
But whose responsibility is that?
The government.
But you're the government.
The government, and that's what I fight for, and that's what I get for my East New York. And I am not the government, Sam. Let me explain something to you so you can be clear.
But you understand what I mean by
No, I don't understand that at all. I am not the government. We have an assembly seat. I'm going to explain it to you. We have an assembly seat, and we've done well with the little assembly seat. You know who the government is? The government is Cuomo. The government is the mayor. The government is those on Wall Street, the private sector that control government resources. The government is a majority state senate that has state assembly has 150 members, right? You know how many are black and Latino? Talking about we are the government. We're only 30, 40 of that. There's 100 and some odd whites. The Senate is 63. If we get 15 of that, we're doing good. New York City has a $78 billion budget, and New York State has a $142 billion government. Sam, that's the government. I have a position in there trying to influence it. Doing my little piece in East New York, I'm the #1 in bringing in affordable housing. I brought in 2 new $80 million schools. I got 2,000 jobs for my people. I demonstrate out there to make sure the police can back up off us and stop stopping, frisk, and checking us every 5 minutes. I'm doing my part. It's the government that isn't.
how do we get your other black colleagues to join you in ensuring that the gentrification does not hurt those people who've been living?
And that's the shame. You know, that's the problem we have. My analysis, Sam, I'll divorce you from this. I think that we're suffering from a form of neocolonialism. The new way to colonize a people is to put black faces in high places. Call them president, call them governor, call them mayor. But you know what, Sam? Keep the policies the same. But put a black face on it so we can't say it's racism. Oh, it's not racism, the president's black. It's not racism, the mayor's black. It's not racism, the governor's black. It's not racism, most of the city council members are black and Latino. It's neocolonialism. The new way to colonize our people is to put black faces in high places. You know why I call us a colony? You know what a colony is, Sam. It's when people outside of your neighborhood controls everything. You know who owns the land in East New York? Not East New Yorkers. East New York is 70% black, 20% Latino, 10% other, and that other's not even all white. There's Bangladesh and all of that stuff. We don't own no land, somebody else does. We don't own all the businesses, somebody else does.
How do you change that?
We're fighting on that right now. You get in there, you organize, you start things to take control over your neighborhood. You start with changing the political structure from the sellout, I'll be nice, the sellout brothers and sisters that get in these places and do what's wrong, Sam. You got to get radicals. That's why I'm proud to be radical. I'm proud to be revolutionary. I'm proud to be black. I'm proud to say I'm a black nationalist. I'm proud to say I'm not an ex-Black Panther. I am still a Black Panther to my heart. We got to stop being afraid to be black, strong, radical, and not get in there and say, let me learn how to play the game. Let me get over.
But many members of the, forgive me for putting it this way, of the black elite, the black elite economically and educationally, they say that being radical is not the way to achieve what needs to be achieved.
They have to say that so they can stay in position, so they can have the whites in the Democratic Party continue to kick stuff to them, being radical. Look what radical politics did to East New York. Get me one of your neoliberal, neoconservative, sellout people, get me one of them and tell them to match their community with my community. Tell them to come out, take you around some of these people who said that to you, go around their community, then come around my beloved East New York and see what black radical politics did to East New York. My wife is a black radical politician, elected officials. She is in the city council where I was. I am in her state assembly seat. Joy Simmons is a black radical. She's the female leader. We have A.T. Mitchell. He's a radical black. He's the head of the community board there. We got rid of the local Democratic Party sellout brothers and sisters, and I'll be nice for you, Sam. We got rid of them, and we control that now. Look at East New York now and compare my East New York, me, black, radical, in your face, to those who are in other communities that you think have the right method of going along to get along, be cool, because that black radical thing is a thing of the 60s. Look at their neighborhood and look at mine.
We are running out of time. I want to talk for a minute or two, that's all we have left, about your transition from city council to state assembly.
It's been great. It's been great. I can't prove causation, but I can prove there's a correlation between my arrival in the state assembly in Albany and Shelly Silver, the most powerful speaker the assembly has ever had. He's gone. I went up there and I spoke against him. I voted against him. The week after I spoke against him, he was busted. He was arrested for corruption, and they still wanted to keep him. I was the only one that stood up, the black radical, and said he got to go. And it wasn't until I did that the next week, 94 of them, whites and blacks, stood with me, and Shelly Silver was out. And this is the first time in the history of the state assembly that we have an African American, a black person, head of the speaker of the state assembly, and that's Carl Hasty. All of this happened in my first 6 months. I can't prove causation, but it sure is a correlation with my arrival and all of that going down.
I got to ask you this question.
Yes, sir.
When you first got into city council, they wouldn't give you a seat. Do you have a seat now?
Well, I have a seat, and they tried to tell me I had to wear a shirt and tie. That's the dress of the state assembly. I don't wear shirts and ties. I wear Nehru suits. I'm an African man born in Brooklyn. I'm not European, so I'm not putting on. You look nice, Sam. Don't get me wrong.
That's okay. When I go to Barbados, Barbados for my summer vacation, I'll be dressed like you.
You look great. But I'm saying I ain't putting that on. And they said I wasn't going to be able to get in. Sam, I've been there for 6 months, and I don't have a shirt and tie on. No ties to the system or around my neck.
Gentrification. Good, bad?
Bad, horrible. We got to stop it, because if we don't, we lose our land, we lose any property we might have, and we're going to chase black people out of New York City. Stop it. It's bad.
State Assemblyman Charles Barron talking about gentrification.
Today, credit card scams, identity theft, and information hacking are more common than physical theft. With technology advancing every day, it can be pretty scary to think of exactly what these new technologies can do and as to whether your personal information is safe. I'm going to give you 4 quick, easy precautions to take with your belongings in order to avoid the new dangers of stealing information. Number 1, do not sign the back of your credit cards. Instead, put photo ID required. Number 2, when you check your checks, do not list any telephone number. You can always write it on the check at the time of the transaction. If you have a P.O. box, use that instead. Number 3, beware of which credit cards you carry. They now have embedded RFID chips because the information on those chips can unknowingly be read by someone near you by using a simple handheld scanner. Number 4, scan the contents of your wallet on a photocopy machine. Do both sides of each license, credit card, etc. If your wallet gets stolen, you will know what you had in it and all of the account numbers and what phone numbers to call and to cancel. Store those photocopies in a secure place. In doing these easy steps, you are well on your way to securing your identity and avoiding any violation of privacy. Have any other helpful tips in securing one's info? Leave a comment on our Facebook page or any questions about these tips. For Brooklyn 45, I'm Shanisha.
Today, we will be discussing network marketing as an opportunity for business ownership. I'm sitting here today with Mr. Paul Seeley, who is a successful network marketer, and we'll have this discussion in regards to traditional business ownership and network marketing. Hello, Paul. Thank you.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you today?
Fantastic.
Good. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about network marketing. And just for the audience, just to let people know, what are some of the other names for network marketing, just in case people aren't aware of what we're talking about?
So some of the traditional names may be direct sales, multi-level marketing, network marketing. Those are the common names that are used in our industry.
Okay. Can you describe the industry a little bit?
So the industry globally is $182 billion it closed out 2014 as. It's a highly successful, highly regulated industry that allow individuals to be able to start a business at a very low cost, but has unlimited upside potential.
Nice, nice. So what's the big difference between a traditional, because I know a lot of people think of, if I own a business, it has to be a brick and mortar, or it can be online these days. But what's the big difference because it is business ownership, correct?
Yes, it is.
So
absolutely.
What's the big difference between a traditional, hey, I want to open a coffee shop or I want to sell T-shirts online, and network marketing?
Well, for number one, the startup cost. The startup cost is a fraction of what it will cost to open up a brick and mortar, where you have tremendous overhead in terms of rent. Even before you start up, the legal fees and the licenses alone in order to be able to open up a traditional business are pretty lofty.
Yes.
And with network marketing, the licenses are essentially shared around among the distributors. So therefore, it breaks the cost down because you have hundreds of thousands or millions of people utilizing one license. So the entry fee is substantially less.
So is it is it a place where you can really feel like you're your own boss? Do you report to anyone? Or because I'm not sure if people are clear that, hey, sometimes because we're so conditioned to what